Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fable Mark, where we share incredible stories of kindness and the unexpected ways life rewards it. Today, we bring you the inspiring journey of a humble street vendor whose single act of compassion changed his life forever. Let's begin. Ravi was an ordinary man with an extraordinary heart. He owned a small street food cart in the middle of a busy market square, where the sound of honking vehicles and the chatter of crowds created a constant hum of activity. His cart was nothing fancy, just a wooden table with a colorful umbrella, a few stainless steel pots, and a handwritten menu, but it was enough to provide him with a modest living. Every morning, Ravi would wake up before sunrise, preparing fresh dough for his famous samosas and brewing masala chai in large kettles. The delicious aroma would draw people to his stall, and Ravi greeted every customer with a warm smile. Life wasn't easy for Ravi. After losing his parents in a tragic accident, he became the sole provider for his younger sister, Meera. They lived together in a tiny one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city, their walls bare but their bond strong. Meera dreamed of becoming a teacher, and Ravi worked tirelessly to make that dream a reality. His earnings were just enough to cover their basic needs and pay her college tuition. Ravi had no luxuries, no savings, and no time for himself. But he never complained. To him, his sister's education was his greatest priority. Despite his struggles, Ravi held on to a belief his father had instilled in him. Kindness costs nothing, but it can mean the world to someone else. Every night, after counting his earnings, Ravi would set aside a small portion in a tin jar marked "Help Others." It wasn't much, but it allowed him to occasionally give free meals to the hungry or buy stationery for kids who couldn't afford it. Helping others gave Ravi a sense of purpose, a way to honor his parents' memory. One chilly evening, as Ravi packed up his cart after a long day, he noticed a man sitting on the pavement nearby. The man's clothes were torn, his face hollow with hunger, and his hands trembling from the cold. He looked as though life had beaten him down to his last shred of dignity. Ravi hesitated for a moment, glancing at his cart. Business had been slow that day, and he barely had enough left to sell the next morning. But then he thought of his father's words. Without another thought, Ravi approached the man. "Are you hungry?" Ravi asked softly. The man looked up, his eyes filled with both shame and desperation. "I haven't eaten in 2 days," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't have any money, but if you have any leftovers—" He trailed off, his pride holding him back from begging outright. Ravi nodded and said, "Wait here." He returned to his cart and prepared a fresh plate of samosas, adding extra chutney on the side. He poured a steaming cup of chai and handed it to the man. "Here you go. Eat slowly," Ravi said with a smile. The man's hands trembled as he accepted the plate. For a moment, he just stared at the food, as if it were a feast fit for a king. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I promise one day I'll find a way to repay your kindness." "There's no need for that," Ravi replied. "Just take care of yourself." The man nodded, tears streaming down his face. He ate quickly, savoring every bite, and finished the chai with a contented sigh. Then, he stood up, gave Ravi a small, grateful smile, and walked away into the night. Ravi watched him go, feeling a quiet satisfaction in his heart. To him, it was just a small act of kindness, nothing extraordinary. Years passed, and life carried on for Ravi. His food cart grew a little more popular, and he managed to save enough to expand his menu, adding pakoras and sweet jalebis to the list. Meera graduated from college with honors and became a teacher at a local school. For Ravi, this was his greatest achievement, a validation of all his hard work. But despite his growing reputation and Meera's new job, money remained tight. Ravi still dreamed of opening a small restaurant one day, but the costs of rent, equipment, and staff seemed insurmountable. So he continued his daily routine, waking up early and working late, always with a smile on his face. One afternoon, as Ravi served a line of customers, a sleek black car pulled up near his cart. The car stood out among the rickshaws and scooters, its polished exterior gleaming in the sunlight. Ravi assumed it belonged to a tourist or a wealthy businessman passing through, but then the door opened and a sharply dressed man stepped out. The man was tall and confident, wearing a tailored suit and polished shoes that shone like mirrors. He walked straight toward Ravi's cart, his expression unreadable. Ravi noticed that his face seemed familiar, though he couldn't quite place it. "Ravi?" the man said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Yes, that's me," Ravi replied, feeling a mix of curiosity and unease. The man smiled warmly. "You may not remember me, but years ago you gave me free food when I was homeless. That meal saved my life." Ravi stared at the man, his mind racing to recall the moment. And then, like a flash of lightning, the memory came back. "You were the man sitting on the pavement that rainy evening," Ravi said slowly. The man nodded. "My name is Arjun. That day, your kindness gave me hope when I had none. It pushed me to fight back and rebuild my life." Ravi was speechless. He watched as Arjun gestured toward the car, where two assistants were unloading large boxes. "This is for you," Arjun said, placing a hand on Ravi's shoulder. Ravi opened the boxes, his hands trembling. Inside were brand new cooking equipment, a gleaming food cart with his name engraved on it, and an envelope. He opened the envelope and gasped. It contained a check, a sum large enough to open not just a restaurant, but several. "This is for your dream," Arjun said with a smile. "I want you to open the restaurant you've always wanted. And don't worry about expenses. My company will cover everything, from rent to supplies." Tears streamed down Ravi's face. "I don't know how to thank you," he whispered. "You already did," Arjun replied. "That day you gave me dignity when I had none. This is just me returning the favor." Ravi felt the weight of Arjun's words settle in his heart. He had never imagined that a simple plate of food could have such a profound impact on someone's life. Months later, Ravi stood behind the counter of his new restaurant, Ravi's Kitchen. The restaurant was his dream come to life. A cozy, vibrant space where the smells of spices and freshly cooked samosas filled the air. The walls were decorated with photographs of his journey, from his humble street cart to the opening day of the restaurant. Customers packed the tables, enjoying his famous recipes. Ravi had hired two assistants to help him in the kitchen, and Mira took charge of the finances, ensuring everything ran smoothly. It felt like a new chapter for both of them. For the first time in years, Ravi didn't have to worry about making ends meet. Yet he never forgot his roots. He made it a point to keep a corner of the restaurant dedicated to free meals for those in need, just as he had once done for Arjun. One rainy evening, Ravi was cleaning up after a busy day when the door opened, and a young boy stepped inside. He was drenched from head to toe, his clothes soaked, and his face pale with hunger. The boy hesitated at the entrance, unsure whether he should step further into the warm, inviting space. "Come in," Ravi called out gently, gesturing for the boy to take a seat. The boy shuffled in, his eyes darting nervously around the restaurant. Ravi prepared a plate of hot food, a samosa, some rice, and a small cup of chai, and placed it in front of him. "Here, eat," he said softly. The boy's hands trembled as he picked up the food. He ate quickly, as if afraid it might be taken away. Ravi watched him quietly, memories of his own struggles flooding back. He thought of Arjun, the day he had handed him that first plate of food, and how life had come full circle since then. Sometimes, Ravi thought, the smallest acts of kindness could ripple outward in ways one could never predict. Helping others, expecting nothing in return, had shaped his life in ways he never imagined. As the boy finished his meal and smiled shyly at Ravi, he felt that same familiar warmth in his chest, a sense of purpose and fulfillment that no amount of money could replace. The restaurant continued to thrive over the months, with loyal customers spreading word about Ravi's delicious food and generous heart. One day, a group of business executives walked into the restaurant, surprising Ravi with their formal attire and serious expressions. Among them was Arjun, now a regular visitor and dear friend. "Ravi, I have a proposal for you," Arjun said, smiling. Arjun explained that he wanted to expand Ravi's kitchen to other cities, helping Ravi's recipes and values reach even more people. "We'll handle the logistics, funding, and everything else," Arjun said. "All I need is your permission to share your story, a story that inspires people to help." Ravi hesitated. The thought of expanding his restaurant was overwhelming, but he trusted Arjun. "If it means we can feed more people and bring hope to others, then yes, let's do it," Ravi said with a determined smile. Months later, Ravi stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony of the second location of Ravi's kitchen. The space was larger and busier, but Ravi ensured it retained the same warmth and kindness that defined his original restaurant. As he cut the ribbon, surrounded by Arjun, Meera, and his loyal staff, Ravi couldn't help but think back to that rainy evening when it all began. He looked at the growing crowd and saw a young man helping an elderly woman to her seat, reminding him of the values that had guided his life. Ravi knew that no matter how much success he achieved, his heart would always belong to the simple belief that kindness, even in the smallest forms, had the power to change the world. Later that evening, as Ravi sat alone in the empty restaurant, he reflected on his journey. The quiet hum of the city outside seemed to echo his thoughts. He pulled out the tin jar he had kept all these years, now filled with spare change from his bustling business. Smiling, he wrote a note and taped it to the jar. "For those who need it most." Every day after that, Ravi continued his tradition of giving back, whether through food or a kind word. The restaurant grew, new locations opened, and Ravi's kitchen became a name synonymous with good food and a good heart. But Ravi remained the same, a man who believed that even the smallest gestures could create ripples that changed lives. On the anniversary of the first restaurant's opening, Ravi invited his entire team, loyal customers, and even strangers to join him for a celebration. As he stood to give a speech, he spotted the young boy he had fed months ago, now better dressed and healthier, sitting in the crowd. The boy waved at Ravi, and he felt a lump in his throat. "Thank you all," Ravi said, his voice filled with emotion. "This restaurant isn't just mine, it's ours. It belongs to everyone who has ever believed in kindness, generosity, and the power of a simple meal to change a life." That evening, Ravi stood by the window of his original restaurant, watching the rain fall just as it had that first night with Arjun. Life had a way of coming full circle, he thought, and sometimes the simplest acts, like offering food to a stranger, could lead to the most extraordinary journeys. He smiled, grateful for the journey that kindness had taken him on.